Good morning, Year 5, and welcome to Wednesday's maths lesson. Today, we are going to be having a look at the area of a rectangle. So, spend 30 seconds and trying to remind yourself of what the area means. What does that word mean? How do we find the area of a rectangle? So, what is area? Simply put, area is the size of a surface. So if you have a look at the shapes, these shapes all have the same area, which is 9, okay? Because the size of the surface in the middle of the shape is 9, okay? So you can see each of these shapes have a surface area of 9. And although they're different shapes, they still have the same surface area. So, how do we find the area of a shape? There are two ways. We can find the area by counting the amount of squares within the shape. So we can put the shape on a grid, and count the number of squares. So here's our shape here. We've put it on some squared paper and we can see that the amount of squares within the shape is 15. This rectangle therefore has an area of 15. There are also special formulas for working out the area of certain shapes. So if we were going to find the area of this rectangle here, we would times the length times the width. So we would be timesing 5 centimetres by 3 centimetres, which would tell us the area of that shape, the surface of that shape. And the answer again would be 15 centimetres squared. So when we're writing area, we must put centimetres squared. Okay, so let's have a look at this first task. It says, complete the shape to make a rectangle with an area of 40 centimetres squared. So we're going to have to add some squares to this rectangle so it has an area of 40 centimetres. So first, let's have a look at what the area is already. So we need to count the amount of squares inside. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So at the moment, the area of our shape is 10 centimetres squared, but we want it to be 40 centimetres squared. So if we want it to be 40 centimetres squared, and we're counting in fives because each one is 5 squares long, we've got 10 and we need to get to 40. So let's count. So we've got 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. So now our shape has an area of 40 centimetres squared. The second part of this question asks us to write down the calculation used to show the length and width of the rectangle. So now we've got to count the sides. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So if we were going to calculate the area of this shape using the formula we learnt earlier, length times width, we would be doing 8 times by 5, which would give us 40. So we needed 30 more squares to be shaded. Let's have a look at this one now. So now we don't have any squares in the middle, so we know we're going to have to times the length times the width to find the area of our rectangle. So we're going to be doing 8 centimetres times by 4 centimetres. So we're going to be doing 8 times by 4. So have a little think, what is 8 times by 4? And the answer is 32 centimetres squared. So once you remember the formula length times width, finding the area of rectangles is actually very easy. Okay, so this question is now asking us to calculate the area of both rectangles. Let's take shape A to start off with. Let's remember that formula, length times width. So I'm going to do 12 times by 6 centimetres. And the answer for that is 72 centimetres squared. So I know the area of this shape. And then I'm going to look at shape B. I've got to do the length times the width. So I'm doing 5 times by 4, and the answer is 20 centimetres squared. And the question, I've not finished the question yet, because the question actually asks me, I've got to calculate the total area of both rectangles. And we know that total means altogether. So I'm going to have to add 72 and 20 together. So 72 plus 20, remember you can use the column method if you need to work that out, or some of you might be able to do it in your head. And our answer is 92 centimetres squared. Right, time to put our thinking brains on. Now we're going to do a little bit of problem solving. So for this question, it says a rectangle has an area of 48 centimetres squared. So we already know the area. And the question says, what could the dimensions be? And dimensions simply means what is this length going to be and what is this length going to be? And it says find 3 different answers. So for this type of question, we are looking for 2 numbers that multiply together to equal 48. So this is why we've got to keep practicing our times tables, because times tables, if you know your times tables, it will help you so much with your maths learning. Okay, so pause the video here and have a think. What numbers do you know that multiply together to make 48? We've got to find 3 answers, remember. Okay, so hopefully you were able to come up with 3 different numbers, well, 3 different pairs of numbers that multiply together to make 48. So here's some that I came up with. 8 multiplied by 6, 24 multiplied by 2, and 12 multiplied by 4. Okay, so let's have a look at this question. So Francis has estimated the area of a square. He said, the area of this square is 36 centimetres squared because 9 centimetres times by 4 equals 36 centimetres squared. Is Francis correct? What do you think? So you need to think here. What do we know about squares? What do we know about the length of a square's sides? So he's saying this is 9 centimetres, and then he's saying, well, this is 4 centimetres. Is he correct? Stop the video here and have a go at that question. Remember, you must prove it as well. You can't just say yes or no. So let's have a look. Well, we know that a square has all sides the same length. So in fact, this side is not 4 centimetres, it's actually 9, as well as this side, as well as this side. And we know to find the area, we need to do length times width. So we need to do 9 multiplied by 9 and the answer is 81 centimetres squared. So it's really important that when you're doing questions that are problem solving, you think about what you know about that shape. What are its properties? Okay, so a question like this, they might be trying to trick you, trying to catch you out. So have a look at the shape. What do you know about that shape? Okay, and then that will help you to solve this type of question. Right, so your work for today. Okay, so you are going to, the first question, you're going to have a look and you're going to complete the shape to make a rectangle with an area of 54 centimetres squared. So it's very, very similar to the one we started with. You need to have a look at how many squares, what's the area of this shape to start off with. And then you've got to work out how many more squares do you need to add to make it have an area of 54 centimetres. Remember, it must be a rectangle. We can't just go putting random squares over here and over here. It must be a rectangle. And then you need to label the length and width of the rectangle. For these questions here, you have to calculate the area of each of the rectangles below. Okay, and then moving on, a similar question, you're going to be calculating the total area of both rectangles, okay? That's really important, the total area, okay? We know total means altogether. Okay, and then this question, your last question, is a little bit of a tricky one, and it's going to be linked to the question we've just gone through on the video. So this rectangle has an area of 24 centimetres squared. Find other possible lengths and widths which give the same area. So we know the area, we've now got to find the dimensions. What could that length be? What could that width be? So what numbers multiply together to make 24? And the same with this one, what numbers multiply together to make 36? Good luck with your work today. Make sure you take your time, think about what you know about shapes, and remember, we can find the area by counting the squares within a shape or by doing length times width. I look forward to seeing your work on Dojo.